As the students filtered through the main door, Professor Zior prepared his notes for today's class. How the clawless and short-teethed humans hadn't evolved natural defenses and couldn't fight without weapons. Professor Zior stretched his elongated snout, the blue fur along his neck bristling with anticipation of the lecture ahead. As a Nivir, he stood nearly 3 meters tall when fully extended, his digitigrade legs allowing him to tower over most other species. His clawed hands moved quickly as he arranged his teaching materials, each finger ending in wickedly curved claws that gleamed with a faint purple sheen, the telltale sign of the neurotoxin that made his species a Category 4 Deathworlder. The poisoned glands beneath each claw had been capped for safety within the academy, but the threat they represented was unmistakable. His amber eyes, set wide on either side of his extended muzzle, tracked the movement of each student entering the classroom. The classroom itself was large, designed in a perfect circle with Professor Zior's platform at its center. The white stone dais rose 2 meters from the main floor, its surface etched with intricate patterns that served both decorative and practical purposes. Around him, the seating tiers ascended in concentric rings, each level equipped with adaptive furniture that could reshape itself to accommodate the diverse body shapes of the Academy's students. The students settling into their seats represented a stunning array of evolutionary killing machines. A cluster of Skorani occupied the eastern section, their avian forms deceptively delicate until one noticed the serrated edges of their wing claws, and the way their beaks were shaped revealed their meat-cutting origin. Their colorful feathers shifted from deep purple to electric blue as they moved, a natural warning display that in their homeworld's jungles preceded swift death. Near them, a pair of Threx coiled their serpentine bodies around specially designed perches, their scales bright softly as bone-tipped tail spines adjusted for comfort. Each spine, Zior knew, could punch through thick armor when propelled by their powerful musculature. Professor Zior's hands moved across the control interface, sending tailored data streams to each student's personal display. The screens automatically adjusted their output, shifting spectrums for the Skorani's tetrachromatic vision, increasing contrast for the heat-sensing Veltrani in the back row, and modulating refresh rates for the motion-sensitive Kirax, whose eyes could process 300 frames per second. "Today we examine humanity," Zior began, his voice full of authority. "The newest addition to our galactic community presents a fascinating paradox. A species that achieved dominance on a Class 6 death world, despite lacking any significant natural weapons." The first slide materialized in 3-dimensional glory above his platform, a human male rendered in exquisite anatomical detail. "Observe," Zior continued, "no claws worthy of the designation. Their keratin growths are thin, brittle, and possess no curve for gripping or tearing. Their dental configuration is generalist at best, with canines so reduced that many prey species possess more impressive fangs. No venom sacs, no acid production, no electrical organs. Even their skin," he zoomed in on the epidermis, "lacks armor plating, significant thickness, or toxic secretions. They can barely manage 20 kilometers per hour at sprint, a speed that wouldn't escape a geriatric phlegmth." The hologram shifted, displaying a timeline of human evolution. "Unlike the Skorani, who developed their wing claws in response to aerial predators, or the Nivir," he preened slightly, "whose neurotoxic adaptations arose from competing with venomous prey, humans followed an unusual path. Approximately 2 million years ago, their ancestors began relying on modified stones to compensate for their physical inadequacies. This tool-use dependency only deepened over time. Where other species evolved stronger natural weapons under environmental pressure, humans externalized their lethality." New images cascaded across the displays, humans with spears facing massive prehistoric cats, humans with bows hunting creatures many times their size, humans with increasingly complex weapons, culminating in antimatter rifles and plasma cannons. Every successful human military engagement in recorded galactic history has relied on technological superiority. Remove their tools, and what remains? A bipedal organism with minimal natural armor, no chemical defenses, and musculature that, while impressive for endurance, lacks the explosive power we see in true predator species. They are, in essence, defenseless without their manufactured weapons. A laugh, deep and genuinely amused, rolled from the back of the classroom. Every head, eye stalk, and sensory organ swiveled toward the source. The laugh had come from a figure in the highest tier, previously unnoticed due to the deep hood shadowing their features. Even seated, something about their posture suggested coiled readiness, though they appeared perfectly relaxed. The laugh continued, not mocking, but filled with the kind of genuine mirth that suggested the listener had heard something unintentionally hilarious. Professor Zior's neck fur bristled, his professional composure momentarily shaken. In 30 years of teaching, no student had ever interrupted his lectures with laughter. His toxic glands pulsed involuntarily beneath their caps as he fixed his eyes on the hooded figure. "You find something amusing about the analysis?" The figure stood slowly, reaching up with what were obviously 5-fingered hands to pull back the hood. The revealed face caused a ripple of shock through the classroom. Smooth skin with no scales or fur, forward-facing eyes with visible whites, and that distinctive flat face that marked humanity. The human was male, with close-cropped dark hair and skin bearing numerous small scars that suggested a familiarity with physical conflict. He smiled, revealing those supposedly inadequate teeth, and the expression somehow managed to be more unsettling than a Threx threat display. "Sorry, Professor," the human said, his voice carrying none of the harmonics common to most galactic species, just a single clear tone that nonetheless commanded attention. "But I couldn't help it. I'm Ivan, by the way. Human, obviously. And that bit about us not being able to fight without weapons, that's just not true." He looked around the room, making eye contact with several students who quickly averted their gazes. "I've actually fought most of the species in this room in bar fights. One more than I lost, too." His eyes found a visceri in the middle tier, their distinctive orange and black coloration marking them as one of the more potently venomous variants. "Though I'll admit, the poisonous ones are the worst. Win or lose, I always end up in the hospital after those fights." The silence that followed could have been cut with a Navir's claw. Professor Zior's secondary eyes blinked rapidly, a sign of extreme cognitive dissonance in his species. He had prepared for many possible classroom disruptions, but being directly contradicted by a member of the species under discussion, a species that shouldn't even be present in an apex predator academy, had not been among them. His fur rippled through several color shifts, from deep blue to purple to an agitated cyan, before he managed to reassert control. The first to break the silence was a Tabir in the third row, his sharp mandibles moving in agitation. "What is a non-carnivore doing in AAP?" The male's 6 legs shifted nervously, combat spurs partially extending from their sheaths. "This institution has strict entry requirements, carnivore or higher on the dietary scale, natural weapons rating of at least 7, documented hunting instincts." "And a proven combat record," a female Zunix added, her mottled gray and green scales flushing with suspicion. "The entrance examination requires live prey trials. How does a weaponless human pass those?" Ivan's smile widened, and several students involuntarily shifted back despite being meters away. "See, that's the thing everyone gets wrong about humans. We're not non-carnivores, we're omnivores, which means we chose to eat everything. As for hunting instincts," he tapped the side of his head, "we've got the best targeting computer in the known galaxy right here. Our brains calculate trajectory, force, and impact points faster than some species' combat computers. The live prey trial passed it with rock and some patience. But you lack natural weapons, Professor Zior interjected, trying to regain control of his classroom. The fundamental premise stands. That's where you're wrong, Professor. Ivan interrupted, his tone respectful but firm. You're thinking like a specialist predator. Humans, we're generalists. We don't have one or two natural weapons. Everything about us is a weapon, and everything around us becomes one too. He held up his hand, making a fist. These bones are denser than most species. Our knuckles are reinforced striking surfaces. Our elbows and knees are natural clubs. Hell, our skulls are thick enough to use as battering rams. I've won 3 fights with headbutts alone. The human began to pace, and Zior noticed how he automatically balanced his weight, how his eyes tracked every student while appearing to look at none. But the real difference? We've developed ways to turn our whole body into a weapon system. On Earth, we call them martial arts. Thousands of different styles, each designed to maximize damage using nothing but body mechanics and physics. Judo uses an opponent's weight against them. I once threw a Mershi twice my mass into a wall hard enough to crack their exoskeleton. Boxing teaches us to generate power from our hips and core. I've seen humans punch through doors. Muay Thai turns our shins into iron bars and our elbows into hammers. He paused near a decorative stone pillar, running his hand along its surface. And then there's our real advantage: pattern recognition and improvisation. Everything is a weapon to a human. This pillar, I could use it to change your momentum, slam you into it, or scrape you along its surface. The sand in the ceremonial gardens, thrown in eyes, it blinds. Used right, it provides traction or causes slips. That beautiful fountain in the courtyard, drowning hazard. The walls, launching surfaces. A Skorani student, her feathers ruffled with agitation, clicked her beak.
Preposterous! No amount of training could allow a clawless, fangless creature to defeat a natural predator!
Ivan's expression shifted, becoming something that made even Professor Zior's toxin glands pulse. Want me to prove it? After class, anyone who wants a demonstration can meet me in the combat circle. No weapons, just what nature gave us. He looked directly at the Visery who'd been mentioned earlier. Except you, Velix. We both would have a bad time, and I'm not due for another hospital stay this month. The classroom erupted in discussion, chirps, hisses, harmonic protests, and ultrasonic arguments. Professor Zior watched his carefully planned lesson disintegrate as students began debating among themselves. Some dismissed the human's claims as bravado, while others who frequented the station's rougher establishments began sharing whispered stories of humans who had indeed proven inexplicably dangerous in close-quarters combat. As the chaos swirled, Zior found himself studying the human more carefully. The way Ivan stood suggested perfect balance, ready to move in any direction. His breathing was controlled, deep and regular despite being surrounded by dozens of natural killers. Most telling were the scars, not the random marks of prey that had barely escaped, but the deliberate patterns of someone who had engaged in violence repeatedly and learned from each encounter. Maybe, Professor Zior said, we should revise our understanding. He pulled up new displays. If Mr. Ivan's claims are accurate, and I find myself inclined to investigate rather than dismiss, then humanity represents something new, not a species that transcended their lack of natural weapons through tools alone, but one that transformed their entire physical form into an adaptable weapons platform. Ivan nodded approvingly. Now you are getting it. We didn't evolve past needing natural weapons. We evolved to become weapons. The implications, Zior continued, his academic excitement overcoming his earlier discomfort, are significant. Humans appear to be something else entirely. Adaptive predators? Combat generalists? We have a word for it, Ivan offered. Warriors, not just fighters or hunters, but beings who study conflict itself. As the class period drew to a close, Professor Zior made a decision that would reshape the curriculum of AAP's theoretical combat studies. Next week's class will include a practical demonstration. Mr. Ivan has volunteered to showcase human combat techniques. Any student wishing to participate in controlled sparring may volunteer. Medical staff will be on standby. The students filed out, many casting glances at the human who had so thoroughly disrupted their worldview. Several approached Ivan directly, some challenging, others curious. The human handled each interaction with the same confidence, neither backing down nor escalating. As the classroom emptied, Professor Zior found himself alone with the human. You realize, the Navir said, that you've just volunteered to fight multiple apex predators in succession? Ivan's grin was distinctly predatory. Professor, on Earth we used to hunt with pointed sticks and persistence. Fighting them one at a time with modern training, that's practically a vacation. Watching the human leave, Professor Zior began mentally composing his notes for a complete revision of his species' combat assessment models. The clawless, fangless, venomless humans might be more than just talk, not despite their lack of natural weapons, but because they had turned limitation into versatility. The murder monkeys from Earth, it seemed, had earned their classification through more than just tool use. They had weaponized creativity itself.